And let's get into it, guys. Our first topic is brought to us by FanDuel. The NBA Finals in full swing every night, delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you're new to FanDuel, right now is the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Guys, we start with the biggest news of the day. It was reported yesterday by multiple reporters that Nick Chubb is meeting with the Houston Texans today. If he passes his physical, he will sign with the AFC South reigning division champs. We had talked at length about Nick Chubb's future here in Cleveland, but to hear the news that his tenure here is officially over, how'd you take that as a Browns fan?
Well, I take it as it's still one of the first times where in my career, as I've gotten older, there was a player where I had a lot of reverence for, to a point where, that was a guy that I didn't have no problem being like, man, that's one of my favorite players. He should get special treatment. He should be on the roster. Like, he was the embodiment of what, everybody said they wanted in a football player. And I'm not going to lie, it's kind of disappointing to me because I still felt like there is a place and there's an opportunity for him to end as a Cleveland Brown, for him to roll out the way he was supposed to do, for them to send him out in the way that I believe a guy of his character, a guy who's fought back from multiple knee injuries, a guy who embodied everything the Cleveland Browns was for, nearly, 6-7 years. I felt like, Nick Chubb deserved the opportunity to come back and to at least finish his career as a Cleveland Brown on his terms, right? And to be able to come back and not see him come back as a shadow of himself. And, it sucks because, we do a lot of talking about what we like to see in players and how we want players to be and how we expect them to be of a certain stature, and we want character, we want integrity. We don't want people, celebrating. We want people to hand the ball to the referee. And Nick Chubb was that. He was the poster child for that. So for me, it makes you realize that it's a business, and it's a cutthroat dog-eat-dog business. And that's why from now on, I was always just the way. Now, I don't got a problem with people holding out. I don't got a problem with people saying they want more money. I don't got a problem saying with people they want the ball, they want a lot of things, because Nick Chubb didn't do none of that. Nick Chubb was not part of any of that. However, it was sad to see him not get an opportunity to at least come back and he publicly wanted to come back and at least come back on his own terms and go out the right way. But, it's a business. It is what it is. And, when you're done, they're going to use you up. Stands for not for long. They don't care if you've been good, great, that you do community service. If they have an opinion that you can't play no more, you're done. And that's just the cold, hard facts.
He deserved a better ending than this. He deserved a chance that most athletes don't get, because he's not most athletes. I've heard that narrative since the injury against Pittsburgh 2 years ago. That's it. He's done. You'll never see him in a Browns uniform again. And he came back. And he was clearly not the same guy. But, we talk about it all the time. We've been through multiple ACL surgeries now, as he has. You're not the same guy, particularly right away. But when you're that young and that strong and that driven and that committed, you might become that guy again. I know it's a slim chance. My disappointment is they didn't give him that chance. Right. There's a world they could have brought him back. I know everybody's like, nope, financially they couldn't. Well, no, not when you draft 2 running backs and then you renegotiate Ford's deal to make it less money. Well, yeah, you made it impossible to bring him back. And this is how broken the Browns football universe is. Deshaun Watson is currently on this roster, and Nick Chubb is not. And that doesn't sit well with me at all. And I've never had a second favorite team. That's almost oxymoronic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I always have had I moved to Tampa in 1998, and the Browns were gone. And I had lost all interest in the NFL. I was one of those guys that says, fine, I'm not watching. I don't care. Because I was working in the industry, I had to report on it, but I didn't commit 3 hours every Sunday or 6 hours every Sunday or 9 hours every Sunday like they try to draw out of us. I didn't do that. And then I started covering the Buccaneers, and you get to know the guys, and there were a lot of really good guys on that team. Derek Brooks, John Lynch, Warwick Dunn, some really easy to root for guys.
Simeon Rice,
great guy. Now they also had Keyshawn Johnson and Warren Sapp. Those guys weren't so easy to work with or root for. And in the media, I know we're not supposed to root, but you're lying to yourself if you can actually say that you're not deep down in the inner recesses, Jason, kind of rooting. Just because, and not because you want to see them win for personal, but it's easier to do your job when you're covering a winning team.
Yes.
And that's why I've always found, even when I was covering teams that I didn't care about, I always found myself saying, God, I hope they win today. Why? Because it's just so much easier for us to do our jobs.
Everybody's in a good mood.
Everybody's in a good mood. Do you want to go to work in an office where everybody is miserable and 3-14, or do you want to go to an office where everyone's 14-3 and it seems like every Sunday they're popping champagne corks, metaphorically? And so I rooted for the Buccaneers when I left, too, because my last year there I saw them win a Super Bowl. And I've always watched them as my NFC team, and I've rooted for them. They made it easier when Baker came, too. But now I think the team that I'm going to have the most interest in, other than the Browns, is going to be the Texans.
They got C.J. Stroud.
That's it. That's
and
it.
Chubb.
That's exactly right. They've got a Buckeye that I thoroughly enjoyed watching, a kid who took the league by storm in his rookie year, took a bit of a step back last year, which is commonplace. A lot of guys do that. But I think they've got a good, young, exciting team. And everybody's telling me that this is Gentleman's Punt Part 2. I'm not going to invest my whole fall into Gentleman's Punt Part 2. I'll watch them because I have to for my job. I'll root for them because it's ingrained in my DNA fibers. But my second team will be the Houston Texans, and I sincerely hope that Nick Chubb has 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, and takes the league by storm. Not because we can say to the Browns, look what you guys have done, but so we can say, good for Nick Chubb. If there's a guy that deserves it, it is Nick Chubb.
Yeah, everybody's rooting for Nick. You know, it's hard to find those guys that everybody is rooting for success for him. I think when you look at it from the Browns' perspective, we knew that it was going to end this way. Like, you know for a while you're going to get divorced, right? It's just finally when the gavel pounds. That's what yesterday and today feels like to me, is the judge pounding the gavel. But you've known since the draft that he wasn't coming back, realistically. And you have to separate emotion from reality, and it's really hard to do. And when you look at the fact that he's 29 years old and all the injuries that he's had, yeah, he may have one more great year in him. Does he have 2, 3, 4? It's hard to bet against that guy. But I think when you look at history and when you look at the injuries that he's had, I think they're making a calculated decision here. They did the same thing with Amari Cooper, and they were right. They got that one right. A lot of people sat here and said, extend him. Extend Amari. Yeah, there's the cliff of 30, but he's earned it. Give him the extra year. Give him whatever he wants. And he gets traded halfway through last year, and he falls off the face of the NFL now. And I think that they're probably expecting the same thing to happen to Nick. And now, are they right or are they wrong? It's a tough guy to bet against. But I think it would be a lot worse to bring him back and then find out in August he's got nothing left and you got to cut him at the end of camp. Imagine then if they cut Nick Chubb.
Nick, at that point, you let him retire as a Brown.
With what if he didn't want to?
I think
clearly he thinks he can still play and he wants to keep playing.
He's 8 months removed.
Yeah.
6 months removed from his last carry in the NFL. When we see him again touch a football in a meaningful spot, he'll be 9 months removed from his last carry. I think the Texans may well know in August, too. I think we all will. I'm leaning towards he is done. But my point is, give him that chance, and give him the chance to retire a Brown. This just seems so unceremoniously evil. And I know that's the business. It's a business. I get that. I do. But every once in a while, you see a team take a bullet for a guy.
Oh, the Lakers did it with Kobe. They overpaid him when he wasn't worth it.
Of course they did. Now, Kobe is a little different. Kobe delivered championships. Kobe was probably at a different level.
Yes.
We're talking about Kobe as a top 5 all-time player.
But
Nick Chubb is not.
I just mean what a player means to a franchise.
Right. And I think if a guy deserves that, it's this guy.
It's tough, man. I know it's not like that. Like we just know. Is Hayward playing for anybody else? No. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hayward's not playing for nobody else.
No, he's going to retire.
T.J. Watt is not playing for nobody else. Like, they got guys those are the guys, you know what it is, they're going to retire there. Baltimore has those kind of guys as well, where it's just like, yeah, I've been here all this time. I'm going to retire a Baltimore Raven. I couldn't see myself being in another uniform. And it's tough because, like Jay, you said, we can talk about all the different players who've had character issues or things outside of it, and we get mad or people are upset that people may get in trouble outside of the field or have different things. But it's hard to really say, are you really into character? Are you really into putting down what you're saying you are? If Nick Chubb is a guy who you don't even give like a second, like you said, it was obvious. It was like, hey, when the last time you talked to Nick Chubb? Oh, that was weeks ago, dog. It was almost a foregone conclusion that he was already out of here. And it was just like, we're just sitting here. And it was painful because it was like, dang, man, Nick Chubb been on the open market for that long. It's like, I can understand if it's Amari Cooper. And the thing that hit me the toughest was, I knew he wasn't going to be what it was last year.
Last year. Yeah.
That's why when people say, hey, he'll come back, I said, no. Listen, you can even see him doing with the little cuts and different things. You can always see him favoring his knee. And I'm like, it's always the next year after that where you get something back. I actually think, if you ask me, he's in a great backfield with Joe Mixon.
Oh, my goodness.
I think he's going to become their short yardage back. I think he's going to be a guy that they really get the ball to when they need a couple tough yards. I think he'll have a bounce back year. I won't say he's going to have 1,000 yards, but I think he'll be better next year than he was here.
If Quinshon Judkins runs for 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards.
Well, yeah.
Everybody will say, gosh, I love you, Nick.
Yep.
Sorry it didn't work out. We're good.
Yep.
You're right about that.
You're right.
And
You're right.
it won't ease the sting of this. For me,
it just make you a little happier on the other side.
Well, here's the thing. If he could be a complimentary short yardage back in Houston, why couldn't he do that here? With Judkins going for 12. Why not?
Or I looked at it like this.
I just think he's earned it.
I am not a big Jerome Ford fan. I get it. You drafted him. I understand he has some home run ability. But I'm taking Dylan Sampson. You drafted him. I would take a backfield of Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins, and Nick Chubb any day of the week. You got everything you need right there. But I get it. They want Jerome Ford. I just don't see it.
Jay, we don't know what he's going to make, right? It'll be minimum.
It'll be minimum.
For his. And so for me, because of that, if you were to take a poll of Browns fans, do you want Ford on this year's roster or do you want Chubb on this year's roster?
That's a 90-10.
That's a 90-10 issue.
98-2.
Probably 98-2.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Everybody tells me we're going to suck this year. So what? If we're going to suck, let's suck.
No.
Let's suck. Let's get the overall #1 draft pick. Let's tank. Let's not gentleman's punt. Let's tank. And let Nick Chubb have one final year with the Browns and let him retire with a ceremony and a Nick Chubb day at the stadium. And he can hear the entire stadium stand and applaud for him when he's introduced on his last game of his NFL career. That's gone now. We don't have that opportunity. I would love to see the Texans win the Super Bowl this year. Could you imagine? Now, that would be a way to go out for Nick Chubb.
And it's tough, man. If you're going to go with the youth movement, this is the thing about the Browns. I hope they don't do this. Please don't do this to me, Cleveland Browns. If you are going to jettison Nick Chubb because you said, I'm going with the youth movement and I got 2 young running backs, you better not be giving Jerome Ford all these touches because it makes absolutely no sense for me. Because you've already told us that you're looking to get better. You got these draft picks. Look, at quarterback, we've been talking about it. But, hey, I want one of them young dudes to play there. I want one of these 2 or 3 young dudes to be in the backfield. Because if you were going to tell me that you were going to play veterans, I'd rather see Nick Chubb play than Jerome Ford. Yeah. But don't get into the season and we're like, oh, that Dylan Sampson looks nice, but he's splitting carries with Jerome Ford. No. He's a 5th, 6th round pick. You know what you got in him. You don't just get better overnight. I just hope that the Cleveland Browns play their young guys, including Mason Graham, including Mike Hall Jr., all the young guys get an opportunity to rightfully win these positions.
I can't disagree with what you're saying about have another year with Nick. I get it. The thing I would say is Nick's 29 and Jerome Ford's 25. He's going to be 26 in September.
Yep.
And they're looking at this as...
That argument makes sense if we're in contention for the AFC Central.
Well,
I buy that argument.
Well, I also...
But we're not.
I think that I think this is a 1-year reset. I've said that 100 times. Last year was awful. No one was expecting last year to go as badly as it is. So I don't think you can count that in terms of the plan of how long are you going to be bad. I think you're looking at this as 1 year of trying to transition this, burn through some of this dead cap money that you've got, that you're saddled with. And when you come out the other side after next year's draft, Jerome Ford will be 26, about to be 27. Nick Chubb will be on the other side of 30. And that's why I think that they're making the decisions that they're making, is because if they're terrible for 1 year, well, then Jerome Ford is still only in the prime of his career, whatever that prime looks like. And I'm with you, G. I've never been a big Ford fan.
No.
It feels like he gives you 3 big pops,
yeah.
And the rest is a 1 yard gain, a 2 yard gain, a 2 yard loss, a 1 yard loss.
A lot of feet movement.
61 yards.
Yeah.
1 yard gain. And the 61's nice. It's fun when it's in the moment.
Yeah.
But they're rare.
But the 2 and the 1 and the -3, the 15 carries in between, the 16 carries in between, it's tough,
and
man.
with a guy like Nick, you knew that if he touched it 20 times, he had a 100-yard gain.
Yeah.
Book it, guarantee it. If he touched it 20 times, he was going to get you 100 yards. Now, mixed in there, he might have a 45-yard run, and then the other 19 carries, he had 55 yards, and it looked, but I got excited about Nick Chubb's 3-yard runs. With Ford, I'm like, oh no, don't go there.
Nick finishes. I just realized this. I looked it up because I was curious. He's 3rd on the team all-time rushing, which that's not a surprise. I didn't realize this.
Behind Jim Brown and Leroy Kelly.
Leroy Kelly, behind 2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
His yards per attempt almost identical to Jim Brown.
5-1.
5-1.
Which
Jim
is
Brown 5-2.
It's one of the greatest of all times, by the way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you get 5 yards a carry, you're going to the Hall of Fame.
Can I give you a difference real quick in Nick Chubb's 3-yard runs versus Jerome Ford's 3-yard runs?
Yeah.
You guys watched a lot more Nick Chubb than I did, but I've been here for the whole Jerome Ford experience, and I did get, even before I was in Cleveland, Nick Chubb would make 3-yard runs out of -3 yards.
Yes.
That's why I said that.
It would go from poorly blocked plays to a 3-yard gain.
There was
Jerome
nothing
Ford
there, and he got 3.
On 3-yard runs would be like, there's a gigantic hole to the right.
Yeah, no,
and
you're
running straight into the
100%
back
right.
off.
Yep,
Nick turns 1-yard runs to 3-yard runs. Jerome Ford turns 5-yard runs to 3-yard runs.
Yeah, all 3-yard runs are not created equal.
And Nick Chubb, the most, I guess the least recognizable trait that people just overlook is the fact that Nick Chubb had breakaway speed. You was not catching Nick Chubb like that. Like, I remember he weaved through the Cincinnati Bengals defense, and they got 2 guys in the middle of the field, had an angle on them, and he was like, nope, I'm going to catch you guys later.
Yep.
And then they tracked him, and it was one of the fastest, miles per hour tracking that they had on ESPN when they talked about it. He always made the first guy miss. He had breakaway speed. His stiff arm was nasty work. I mean, he had everything you wanted. And on top of that, he's just never too high, never too low. Just
an
Nick
all-around
Chubb doing the thing.
Winner, champion, human being. And the reason, I hear what you're saying about this is a reset.
Yeah.
And to me, that just gives more credence to the notion that he should have been here, that he could have been here. And it would have been okay. So what? We're projected to win 3.5 games. What's the over/under from Vegas?
4.5.
Okay, that's pathetic. Yeah. That's pathetic. We can. Okay, so we win. And here's the deal: if he's really bad and we're stuck with him, he gets to finish out his year here. He gets his swan song. He gets his goodbye, and that might be the highlight of an otherwise miserable season.
Yeah.
When we don't even have that now. We have a miserable season to look forward to. And a losing season. And I know the coaching staff and the front office is like, well, we're not resigning ourselves to that. We're going to work hard every day, and it's our intention to win every single game. Great. Wonderful. Not going to happen.
I don't take this the wrong. I now don't want to see any old people in the team. if you are over the age of, if you're 25 and older, and your name is not Jerry Jeudy,
Oh my God!
if
Joe
you're not
Flacco.
Jerry Jeudy or Denzel Ward or Myles Garrett, I do not want
Antonio gone.
Well, listen.
Garrett gone.
No, offensive linemen, I don't count them. They're just
Oh,
up there like
okay.
grazing like cows.
Okay.
We got a lot of caveats already.
Yeah.
Caveats.
If you're a skills guy and you're over 25.
Actually, just break it down. I'm talking about quarterbacks and running backs. I don't want to see no old people. I want to see young thoroughbreds. I want to have something, because guess what? If you taking L's and Kenny Pickett is throwing the football and Jerome Ford is in the backfield, that's nasty. I do not want to do that. How are we going to cover Kenny Pickett and Jerome Ford?